Chapter 1. The Ancient Loki, the Necessary Force of Chaos. We all carry a clear, convenient image. Loki is evil. He's the cosmic criminal who undermined Asgard from within, igniting Ragnarök, the apocalypse. But that image, shaped by religious victors and popular culture, is just a flimsy facade. To find the true Loki, we must journey back to the mindset of the ancient Vikings, where chaos was not wickedness, but life force. To understand Loki, we must accept a fundamental paradox. In the Viking world, the cosmos did not operate on the absolute good versus evil duality we know today. Instead, it was a relentless cycle between order, cosmos, and chaos. Both extremes were fundamental, necessary forces to maintain the cosmic cycle. If Odin represented order, wisdom, and survival, then Loki represented chaos, transformation, and challenge, origin, and the essential position of the outsider. Loki's nature was defined by his very origins. He is not pure Aesir, but the son of the giant far body, often associated with fire, and Laufey, who suggests natural elements leaves. He is a being of both worlds, embodying the nature of fire and transformation. Fire is not an enemy. It both destroys the old, creates heat, and forges anew. It is an uncontrollable force, yet capable of purification and renewal. This nature is a perfect and necessary opposite to the frost of Jotunheim, the realm of the frost giants, and the stasis of Asgard. The most incredible detail is that Loki was accepted into the ranks of the Aesir, even becoming blood brother to Odin, the supreme god. This fact, established by an ancient oath of brotherhood, is concrete evidence against the argument that Loki was evil from the start. If Loki were pure evil, Odin, the god of wisdom and survival, would never have accepted him. Odin, in his quest for knowledge, saw the value of Loki's insight. Odin understood that his order would become stagnant and corrupt without a constant challenger. Loki is the eye that sees through order's blind spots. Loki, the catalyst and creative destroyer. Loki's core role is as the catalyst, the instigator who forces Asgard to evolve. Loki acts not through morality but through narrative necessity. He destroys to create a chain reaction leading to innovation. The gods, in their contentment, often fall into stasis and complacency. Loki is the one who pushes them out of that state. A perfect example is the incident involving the goddess Sif's hair. Loki cut Sif's hair out of spite or a malicious joke. This was a serious transgression. However, to escape Thor's wrath, Loki was forced to journey to the dwarves and return with the Aesir's ultimate weaponry to mend the wrong. Loki's malice gifted the gods. Odin speared Gungnir, the most powerful weapon. Freyr's ship Skidbladnir, which can fold and fit in a pouch. And most crucially, Thor's hammer Mjolnir, the only weapon capable of confronting the giants. The core twist: Loki is not a destructive villain. He is a creative destroyer. Without Loki's malicious act, the Aesir would not have possessed the ultimate tools to defend Asgard. His actions always lead to a necessary cosmic development, forcing the gods to equip themselves and evolve to survive. He is also the sharp voice of criticism. In the poem Lokasenna, Loki's Flighting, he mocks every god at the feast, exposing their hypocrisy, secrets, and flaws, such as Njord's lack of courage or Freya's weakness. Loki is the only figure who dares to speak the truth, forcing the powerful gods to confront their secrets, hidden shames, and mistakes. Loki's existence is a perpetual reminder that order is not eternal, and that change is always a threat that must be acknowledged. Philosophical chaos. Loki and necessity of ruin. Loki's role extends into deeper philosophical aspects of pagan thought. Creation from destruction. Just as the Vikings understood that life only comes from death, the world tree Yggdrasil grew from the giant Ymir's corpse. Loki represents this principle. He is the rawness, the imperfection, the necessary force to activate creation. Aesthetic of the eccentric. Loki frequently shapeshifts into a woman, a maidservant, or an animal, gives birth to monsters like the eight-legged horse Sleipnir, and constantly changes identities. His ability to transform is a metaphor for the world's fluidity and impermanence. Loki is a figure with whom Vikings could find empathy in a constantly changing and precarious world. Loki is not evil to be defeated. He is a force of nature to be reconciled and managed. Accepting Loki is accepting the cyclical and imperfect nature of existence. But if Loki was necessary, why did he become the destroyer? What broke this fragile balance? Everything changed at the moment of Baldur's death, an event Loki either could not or would not mend. That event cleared the path for a major theological shift, one driven not by the Vikings, but by a new religion rising from the south, carried with a binary worldview of good and evil. Chapter 2, the apocalyptic turning point, Baldur's death and the religious conflict. If Chapter 1 established Loki as a necessary force of chaos for the development of the Aesir, Chapter 2 exposes a tragic moment when that fragile balance shattered. This is the event where Loki ceased to be the catalyst and became the absolute antagonist condemned by the entire cosmos. Everything revolves around the death of Baldur, the god of light, sanctity, and beauty. This was not merely a failed joke. It was a theological turning point that permanently cast Loki as the villain and cleared the path for Ragnarök, the world's end. The event is recounted in the Eddas with profound grief. Baldur, the most beloved of the Aesir, began having ominous dreams of his death. Fearful of losing the symbol of perfection, the goddess Frigg traveled across the 9 realms, extracting oaths from every living and inanimate object to swear they would not harm Baldur. The world complied, creating an illusion of invulnerability for Baldur. Only one item was overlooked, too small and seemingly harmless: the mistletoe. Loki's position in this tragedy is critical. He was the only one who saw the loophole, who saw the naivety and complacency behind the Aesir's comprehensive protection. Torn between the need for action and a deep resentment towards Baldur's untainted perfection, Loki weaponized the secret knowledge of the mistletoe. He disguised himself, tricked Hod, Baldur's blind brother, into throwing the mistletoe branch, leading to the light god's death. Theological analysis: the death of perfection. Baldur's death transcends a simple murder. It is a prophetic judgment on the finitude of order. In Norse mythology, Baldur represents perfection, innocence, and the promise of summer. That he died at the hands of chaos, Loki, and blindness, Hod, is not coincidental. The fall of perfection, Baldur's death demonstrates that even the most sacred and perfect entity is vulnerable to chaos. It shatters the illusion of an eternal, pristine Asgard. It affirms the core pagan philosophy: an ending is inevitable. The failure of the sacred oath. Loki did not just murder. He destroyed the trust and the system of sacred oaths that formed the ethical foundation of Viking society. This is the point where chaos exceeded the catalyst role and became purely destructive. Loki proved that Frigg's oath was merely an illusion of control. The extreme reaction. The Aesir's reaction to this death marks a collective psychological shift. They desperately tried to retrieve Baldur from the underworld, hell, showcasing their despair in clinging to order and rejecting the chaos Loki introduced. When this effort failed, the Aesir no longer saw Loki as a difficult member. He became an enemy who must be eliminated to preserve their remaining fragile stability. 2. Punishment and religious syncretism. The aftermath of Baldur's death was the brutal punishment of Loki. The Aesir captured him and bound him beneath a venomous snake, whose poison dripped onto his face. Loki's wife, Sigyn, had to catch the venom in a bowl, and every time she moved to empty it, the poison fell on Loki, causing agonizing convulsions. Disproportionate punishment. This penalty is exceptionally cruel and disproportionate compared to other mythological crimes. Gods were tied up and exiled, but none were systemically tortured like Loki. This brutality signals the beginning of a new phase, the complete eradication of chaos from the established order. Theological parallel. Loki's binding and suffering bear striking similarities to the stories of Satan being chained or cast into the abyss, and Prometheus being bound to a rock. This parallel is not accidental. It is the first sign of religious syncretism. As the Vikings encountered Christianity, c. 9th to 11th centuries, they needed a corresponding devil to understand the new binary system, and Loki's torment was exaggerated to match Satan's suffering. 3. Loki, the manufactured villain, and the erased philosophy. Loki's final transformation into the ultimate villain occurred not in the Viking Age, but after Norse mythology was recorded by Christian scholars in Iceland, who wrote the Eddas in the 13th century. The propaganda tool. To facilitate religious conversion, missionaries and converts needed a simple, opposing figure. They syncretized Loki, Loki was fully equated with Satan/the devil, the trickster, the author of evil. They emphasized Loki's role in Baldur's death, paralleling Satan causing the first sin. The erasure philosophy, by making Loki absolutely evil. The scribes erased the pagan philosophy on the necessity of chaos. They replaced a subtly balanced system with a simple moral one, where chaos was only evil to be destroyed. Loki, from a natural force, became personal sin. Chapter 3. Loki at Ragnarök, the legitimation of destruction. If Baldur's death was a psychological turning point for the Aesir, then Ragnarök is the inevitable climax of that event. Ragnarök is not just a final battle. It is a cosmic judgment, where every deception, every imbalance, and every stagnation of the gods must be purged. And the one leading that reckoning, the ultimate foe of the order that abandoned him, is Loki, after suffering brutal punishment, chained under venomous snake poison. Loki is no longer the whimsical trickster. He has become the embodiment of vengeance. The unjust torment imposed by the Aesir transformed the necessary force of chaos into a destroying power, harboring righteous hatred. The rise of the Night Army. The moment Loki breaks his chains is the moment destruction is legitimized. He is not alone. He leads the army of creatures that Order attempted to suppress or banish. Fenrir, the giant wolf Loki's eldest child, deceived and chained by the Aesir out of fear of its power. Fenrir swallows Odin at Ragnarök, taking vengeance for Order's betrayal. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, the colossal sea serpent, cast into the ocean by Thor to isolate it from the world. It emerges from the sea to confront Thor, symbolizing the vengeance of suppressed nature. Hela, goddess of the underworld, the child exiled to the underworld for a terrifying appearance. Hela leads the army of the dead. This is the most powerful philosophical twist. Loki does not lead demons. He leads the abandoned. Loki's army is a rebellion of all that was suppressed, feared, and exiled by the gods. Loki becomes their leader not because he is inherently evil, but because he is the only one who accepts and understands their pain. 2. The final battle and the necessity of collapse. The Battle of Ragnarök, according to researchers, is not a story about who wins or loses, but about the necessity of an ending. It is a prophecy about the cyclical nature of the cosmos. The necessary collapse. The gods know Ragnarök is coming. They know they will fall, yet they fight. This sacrifice carries deep philosophical meaning. Order must collapse for rebirth to occur. Loki's final role. Loki ensures the destruction is total and irreversible. He confronts Heimdall, the guardian of order and the symbol of vigilance. Their mutual death symbolize the complete destruction of the two opposing forces. Both the vigilant guardian and the chaos instigator must be removed to create a new beginning. 3. Loki, the manufactured villain and the Christian influence. Loki's ultimate transformation into the complete villain occurred not during the Viking Age, but after Norse mythology was recorded by Christian scholars in 13th century Iceland. Religious syncretism. Christianity demands a simple opposing figure, God good and Satan evil. Christian scribes heavily syncretized Loki into the role of Satan, the deceiver, the author of malice, the power shift. In older versions, Surt, the fire giant, was the main destroyer, but in later versions, Loki is elevated as the mastermind of Ragnarök. This aligns with the biblical narrative of a final battle between absolute good and absolute evil. By making Loki absolutely evil, the writers erased the pagan philosophy on the necessity of chaos. Loki was not born wicked. He was a necessary force of chaos whose function was converted into that of a simple devil to serve a new binary worldview. Loki is the final sacrifice of paganism to appease Christianity. He stands as tragic proof that history is always written by the victors, whether they were the ancient Athenians or medieval Christian monks.